Hello, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Cotto. I'm a former music educator, now customer success manager at an ed tech company. At the beginning of my job search, I focused only on my resume and cover letter when applying to jobs. However, my applications were constantly being rejected, and I wondered what many transitioning teachers ask themselves. How do I stand out amongst applicants as an educator? One of my answers to that is a portfolio. And yes, I've actually been invited to interview at companies because of my portfolio's content. So let's get into why you want to create a portfolio, what goes into it, and what platforms you can use to create a portfolio. So I know I've asked this to many people. So do I really need a portfolio if I'm going into customer success? And my answer is yes. On a lot of applications, I notice underneath where I put in my LinkedIn profile, the application usually asks for a portfolio or a website. While it's not required to put a portfolio on there to apply, why not add something that could potentially make you stand out? It's like giving extra credit questions on a test. Are they necessary to evaluating if a student understood the content? No, but they might help that one student go from an A to an A plus. And as transitioning teachers, we need all the extra credit we can get. So a portfolio, while not necessary, can provide insight into your work ethic that can't be demonstrated on an application or on LinkedIn. Another question I received is, did I really get an interview because of my portfolio? And that answer is also yes. Quick story. I was rejected from a big ed tech company that I had actually utilized in my classroom. They said they would keep my resume on file, but we all kind of know that's their nice way of saying no thanks. For a few weeks, I was upskilling and creating my portfolio to reflect who I was, what I wanted to do, and what I had to give to a company. I still had that ed tech company on my mind, so I decided to reach out to the recruiter that gave me the rejection email. I told her I had created a portfolio with samples of me actually utilizing their product to teach students how to use it. The next day, she called me and said the vice president of customer success saw my portfolio and absolutely loved it. Then we scheduled an interview for the next week. During that interview, the other managers even talked about my portfolio and asked me questions on some of the things that I had created on there. So now, is it the portfolio the end all be all to getting a job? No. But it's another way that recruiters can see what you're about and what you have to bring to the table. So now that we've talked about why you should create a portfolio, let's talk about what to include in your portfolio. Here are three things that should be included: teaching artifacts, professional documents, and letters of recommendation. Could you add more? Absolutely, but for this presentation, I'm focusing on these three. So here are some examples of teaching artifacts. The first one is lessons or lesson plans. Lesson plans can provide valuable insight besides how do I teach a class. They demonstrate your ability to create goals or learning objectives, how to analyze data or how you evaluate, and how you take action to ensure that the students understand the content. Another great way to demonstrate how you implement your knowledge in teaching is by showing any videos that you have of yourself. So whether you had to record yourself teaching for an evaluation, or if during the pandemic you had to create a how-to video so your students knew where to do the assignments, all of these show that you are a human being to recruiters and also just showcase your personality as well. Presentations. Did you have to create a PowerPoint presentation for a lesson? I know I created a bunch. Or did you deliver professional development to your team? Presentation skills are important in any job, not just customer success. So if you have any presentations, please share them. Finally, the last teaching artifact I want to include is student samples. It's one thing to say, well, this is how I would teach a class, and this is the product that they could produce. But what about actually showing the results and actually showing the data and that shows you how successful you were in teaching? So I would provide student samples in all different things from music videos they created in my class to performances to presentations, anything to show like what your results were after you taught those students. Next thing to add is professional documents. I have four things listed here. The first is teaching certificates. Those are important. Those are a professional document. Any upskilling or courses that you took. So, for example, if you took any LinkedIn courses and got a certificate, or if you got a certification, for example, I got my certification in customer success through Success Hacker, include those certifications. Formal evaluations. So usually once a year, we as teachers had to have a formal evaluation where our administrator had to write down our quote unquote grade. I would include those too. And finally, transcripts and degrees from your college or continuing education or professional development. Finally, the last thing I want to include is letters of recommendation. While I was submitting applications, I noticed one thing missing, a spot to put letters of recommendation. For every education job I've ever applied to, they have always asked for letters of recommendation. So it caught me off guard when I noticed on my applications for customer success that not once was I ever asked to submit them. However, they are still valuable to recruiters even if they don't ask for them, as they can provide insight on how your coworkers viewed you. Another reason to include letters of recommendation in your portfolio is because on LinkedIn, those recommendations on your profile are only from other LinkedIn users. I don't know about you, but as a teacher, I never used LinkedIn, just being honest. So it was difficult for me to ask for recommendations because most of my teacher friends weren't on there. So by putting them in my portfolio, I can ensure that recruiters do see what my coworkers thought of me just in a different setting and not just on LinkedIn. So those are the three things I would put on a portfolio. Now, which platform should you use to create a portfolio? And that answer is it's up to you. Make sure that it's something you feel confident working in and doesn't take too much of your time. If on one platform you're using, it's taking you hours to format the page, try a different platform. I've seen people create a Google Drive with subfolders of the different things I suggested, and they just shared that to the public and put the link in their application. So really, it's whatever you feel comfortable using. I have used Google Sites, WordPress, Wix, but I ultimately put my portfolio on Bulb app, which is why it's first. Um, I personally like it because it not only has a portfolio setting, but it also has a resume that corresponds with the portfolio. And it was very easy to add materials. But other platforms are Wix, Squarespace, GoDaddy, Google Sites, WordPress, or Google Drive. So that's all I have. So thank you so much for listening in. I hope this helps guide you into creating a portfolio and helps you stand out to recruiters as a transitioning teacher. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to connect with me. I have my LinkedIn there, and I also have a link to my portfolio. Is it perfect? Not really, but you can just get an example of what I did in order to stand out to recruiters. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I wish you luck on your job search.